Hello. Welcome to, hold on. Oh, yeah, I got my light on. I didn't think my light was on. Welcome to Q&A. We are going to dig into some questions that have been piling up in the backlog, as well as deal with a particular hot topic that sort of showed up that we want to discuss. We're going to start get used to trying to get a little bit more interaction before these streams. So Scott has gotten in the habit of sending them out there and even recording some of the responses that come out. So we'll be showcasing some of those tonight as well. So that way people who can't make it to the streams their voices can still be heard, which I think is definitely a fun step in the right direction. Let's bring David in and we'll get this party started. David.
Hey, Brent. So what are we doing now?
I don't know. I don't know what
we're doing. Okay.
Yeah,
you mentioned something along the lines of sharing some of the comments or the answers that are coming from the community.
Right.
That sounds like a great idea. What is it?
It's so basically when we have these Q&As, Scott's going to get in the habit of picking up on hot button issues that maybe a particularly good question that gets asked, because as most of you in chat, hi chat, most of you know that Scott usually sort of sends out social platform invites or sort of advertisements about the Q&As, and usually kind of showcases a topic or a theme. And those are usually coming from a question that came from the community. By the way, if you have a question or a topic that you'd like to see discussed on these streams, all you need to do is reply to one of Scott's many different posts on these topics. He is always listening and always watching. He's a little omniscient like that. And they end up in this little grid. And then we end up trying, that's what we call the backlog. So what I'm saying is, in the past, all we've done is make sure that the best ones rise at the top and we deal with them on the stream. But now what Scott's doing is also, these are starting, the really interesting topics are being discussed in real time and people are reacting to some of these sort of these kind of topics. And so Scott's been recording some of these reactions. So if you have an opinion on some of these topics, you can share those as well. And we're going to talk about that. Because I think what's interesting is topics that are divided and where people have very different opinions on are the perfect kind of things to discuss, because obviously finding some middle ground is always a nice thing to try to do. So there you go. In a nutshell, that's what we're trying to do. Yeah.
And Brent, lastly, where are all those questions posted? You said that just answer to the post.
Yeah. Yes. So I believe the main places are still Instagram and Twitter. Scott can correct me. He's right there in chat. So feel free to correct me in real time, Scott. Yeah. So Twitter and Instagram are usually his go-to. So those are easy to find us. If you don't follow us already, then you probably should, because there's all kinds of cool conversations that are kind of happening among the community between streams. So there you go. Yeah, Facebook as well. He's just everywhere. Yeah. Think of Scott as the Agora Sauron. Basically, he's just a big eye that's always watching. Minus the fire. Okay, so we can deal with questions in chat that happen tonight as usual, and we can also dip into the backlog of said questions. We could start right off the bat if you wanted on this one particular question, which I think is an interesting one. Do you want to do that, or do you want to warm up first? I'll let you choose.
Okay, let's warm up. Let's
go.
I
just figured give people time to. Yeah, I wouldn't want people to show up late and be like, I missed all the action.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me
a little easy one.
Okay, a little softball, little league lob.
Yeah.
Oh, let's see. I would let's do. I wasn't prepared for this.
You're looking too far. Just
no, I know.
Pick the second
I just want to make sure
one.
I agree. I think I'm gonna get this one here. Well, I mean, so I think Scott. Let's do this. We could start right off the bat with this hot topic that came out that we were talking right before the stream, just for fun. Let's start with that.
Are an anim rogue that had to question at the top of the list, right?
Yeah, well, the blue one is the one. That's the one I want to wait. That's the one we're warming up for. So let's grab the one at the social media topic, the one that Scott essentially advertised, which was regarding it wasn't what he advertised. Sorry, it was something that has been in a lot in social media. A lot of people are talking about it. So let's talk about this one.
Oh, and that's what you call warm up. All right, let's warm up.
Sure. Hey, man. Hey,
sure.
Either let me drive and get out of the way, or take the wheel, buddy. Let's do it.
Let's warm up with this super political and sensitive stuff.
Sink or swim. That's the Agora way, isn't it? You're the one that taught me that. Just jump in and try to figure it out. Okay, let's do it. So on Twitter, I saw a post saying that that the amount of unpaid overtime this artist worked at the company equated to 1 hour of pay for Bobby Kotick, CEO of Activision, and that totaled around $77,000. That's a little bit viral right now. A lot of people are talking about that in the industry.
Yeah.
So let us talk about that. Let's talk about it.
It's great when you can come with those comparisons that are like, okay, let's just take the flamethrower and what is the most outrageous comparison that we can make. All right, where to even start? I need to start with unpaid overtime.
It's good place to start.
I have empathy for those that are in a situation at their studio or within their team that they kind of feel the social pressure, the peer pressure of doing unpaid overtime. But I think that we all need to have a little bit more ownership on our decision. If you did unpaid overtime, you yourself have decided that you're going to do unpaid overtime. So I mean, the comparison here is still pretty striking, but it's, I would say on one side, it's difficult to agree unless you were promised to be paid and you were unpaid. That's a totally different situation. But if you know it's going to be unpaid and you willingly do it too, yes, you can use it as a comparison for someone that is making a lot, but it's your call. So for me, it's almost like, okay, the amount of overtime that you did is the equivalent of 1 hour. I'm personally not shocked at all with this.
This is not a game industry problem.
I mean, I don't even remember, but the first time that I myself realized how much money a CEO and just, upper management of big corporations are making in general was in the 2008, the last big recession, when you had those bank that basically broke the system and you had those multi-million bonuses to the same people. And this is when you realize that, oh my God, it's extremely unfair. And it is, but
100%.
And I think that this, and no, it's not fair, but I would say that there's probably other industry that is even worse. I mean,
like the financial industry, for instance.
Yeah, like the financial industry, or this worker working at the Amazon warehouse at $15-20 an hour, for instance. I mean, it's it's fine to make those comparisons, but our industry in general, we are in comparison with many other industry, we are quite well paid in general. If you take the average, not all studio, not everywhere, but on average, we're usually fairly compensated. But if you compare this compensation for what you do and you compare it to a CEO of any big corporation, you're going to be depressed, because no matter the industry is going to be just ridiculous.
Well, you're comparing yourself to the 0.1%, right? This is not an apple and oranges sort of scenario. This is sort of like an apple and I can't even think of a proper scenario. Watermelon is not big enough to fully make this analogy, but you get what I'm saying. It's just they're in completely different ballparks, and anybody in any industry is going to look at that and go, "Really?" But
in capitalism is a very efficient system. It's a very dynamic system,
but it's not a
you're
very fair
basically
system.
you're not rewarded for how much you contribute to society. You are rewarded financially by how much money you generate in the system. Like roughly we can. So, and I did this conversation with Kelsey, Andrew's wife, who's actually, helping kids with disabilities and all that. And, by and large, she's bringing much more good
way more
society
value
than we do. But her salary is nowhere close to what supervisors would make in our industry. Well, that's totally unfair, but it's another way to make those comparisons.
I would make a comparison also to early childhood educators. Like people that operate daycares, like people that we entrust with our children in their most impressionable and vulnerable years. These people get paid peanuts, and then meanwhile you get like people that are just for showing up, they make millions of dollars. It's completely broken. I mean, there's nobody denying that.
And if you go in education, I mean, what about those crazy loans that that students have to take, and how much money the big upper management of those private well-known schools are making, how many dozens of millions they're going to invest in a new stadium that they don't really need. So there's a lot of, but basically, CEOs, their role in big corporation is to maximize the profit of their shareholders. If the studio is making a lot of money, which means that the shares are going to grow, and there's some target. If they hit the target, they're going to make an insane amount of money. To compare this system in between CEO shareholders and the salary of those that are actually making the product, that are generating the IP, we can make those comparisons, but it's
just not fair.
It's almost, it's not that it's all fair, but it's almost irrelevant. It's to compare two completely different
universes.
Again, completely unfair, but it's been unfair forever this way. So I'm impressed by those numbers. I'm totally not surprised by those numbers. They are on par with everything that I've seen in most other industry.
Full disclosure, I don't want anybody to mistake my my wholehearted agreement with what David's saying as somehow apathy for this, because it's not. I think this is not about me being apathetic or David about being apathetic. It's just, it's the world we live in, and don't let it be a distraction to the point that it somehow demoralizes you, because you could still make an amazing living doing this stuff. And like David said, we're not making excuses for maybe some of the bad policies that some of these companies that exist that take advantage of people and like force them, even like with the culture of like workaholicism, to like do that over time and then not compensate people. Those are wrong no matter what way you look at it. But there are definitely people that are willingly staying late, even though they were told not to, and still making comparisons like this. These are different scenarios. So like, you got to take a step back and ask yourself, like, don't let money be the only factor here, because you can very quickly convince yourself that you're unhappy, your job that you were really happy with just literally just a moment ago. But because you see a comparison like this and you're like, oh yeah, the system's broken, let's storm the castle. It's like, okay, go ahead. Go for it. But like, you know what? At the end of the day, there's not going to be any revolution anytime soon. And this is unfortunately just the way that like you said, capitalism works like this.
Yeah. So, being angry against the system is not going to be a healthy thought for you. No. It's as if you were angry about the one that win the lottery. It's literally the 0.01% that gets
it. That's
gets there. And you know what? Many of those, many of those super rich people are miserable because they're completely unhappy
Most
and
of them are.
unfulfilled with their
Yep.
life, and they will many of them envy just being a creative person that is paid a salary and come back home and can empty their mind and do other creative stuff, and they don't have all of this pressure. So those are impressive numbers for sure, but
Yep. But
we
don't
need to
focus
keep
on
them.
them.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Focus on you being happy and be able to make enough money that's of at least market value of what you do, right? And make sure that your work conditions are healthy, both emotionally and physically. Those are the things you have control over, but you do not have control over this. So be realistic when you're getting upset and broken about this kind of stuff, because it's very easy to get caught up in the drama, and it's not productive. And I'm not saying you're going to feel the way you're going to feel, but that's definitely how I feel.
Yeah.
There you go. Warmed up, huh, David?
We need to be especially careful nowadays that we now have information about everything. There's a million of reasons to be angry and offended and frustrated in general.
Yes.
So it's one of the many million.
Just stack it on top of the pile in the corner there of grievances for 2021 that's just started off. So now that we're all, properly warmed up, we can talk about this other topic. So it was definitely not more. It was less of a warm up and more of like a kind of like a hit the ground running kind of scenario.
Warm up now.
Yeah, we're warm, man. Okay, so here comes the spicy one. This one's from Pitar, and he never disappoints with spiciness. Let me drop it in here. I'll read it first as usual because I don't think it's going to fit, but maybe it will. Let's see.
Oh yeah, this one will fit.
Oh yeah, you're getting a good feel for it. All right, so this is the one that went out there on social, and people had some opinions. I will share those opinions, and then David and I will kind of dig into it. But I do like this idea of like having other people are weighing in on this, and this one definitely came out as very clear that there was some division in here on people's different takes on it, and I think that that's particularly juicy. So let's get into that. I've heard people say that having a popular movie character, i.e., Spider-Man, in your own reel is not advised because it'll draw immediate comparison to the actual actual movie, I think, and come off as underwhelming in contrast. Thoughts? So that's a good one. I like it. I had a very visceral reaction to this, but then reading some of the comments and other perspectives, I'm like, okay, those are some decent points. I will share my perspective after I go through these points, though. Do you want to weigh in now, or do you want me to go through the? There's three that Scott at least collected that were sort of comments based on this. Let's listen to those first.
Go with those. I'm sure they're not going to change my thoughts on this.
Yeah,
one,
no.
So
Well,
I'll let you know.
Okay, so perspective number one. It depends on the studio you're aiming for. If it's Sony, then you could show show off some of your Spidey skills. Good point. Perspective number two, not only is it not about trying to compare yourself to the movie your character is from, a huge portion of your reel is about showcasing your ideas and personality. If you pull your character straight out of film, it doesn't properly show your ideas. Okay. And perspective number three, art is going to be compared no matter what. If the job you're being hired for is possibly superhero related, why wouldn't you want that on your reel? The director will help you make it a better product. Make it better for the product anyways. So David, where are you in this argument?
I mean,
I'm excited.
There's good arguments both ways. So I'm going to say the disclaimer that this is my own opinion, but I'm happy to debate those thoughts.
If our conversations have to start with a caveat like that, it's always going to be juicy.
Yeah,
Pitar, buckle up, buddy.
I personally do not agree that it would be a bad idea. I think it's totally subjective. It's going to play in your advantage. Sometimes it might play in your disadvantage other times. But I think that overall randomness is going to not have a big effect. It won't make a big difference. Is your animation good or not? Is going to make the difference. For sure. And literally, let's take the Spider-Man. There are some Spider-Man fans that will be like, oh yeah, Spider-Man on the show reel, and it will attract their attention because at the end of the day, what you want the reviewer of the show reel is to remember your show reel. That's a goal.
Yep. It's your single only goal, really.
And in a positive way. That it's not like, oh my
preferably.
god, I've seen the worst. That it's, it might help to remember your name, and if you send a way better reel afterwards, it could play in your favor. But number one goal, you want them to remember you for the
Yeah.
good reasons,
Yep.
and some of
Yep.
them might remember you better if you have a well-known character that they can associate some of their
Yep.
memories to what they've seen there, to your name, and this is going to make the difference of the name that they will remember the day that they have to hire someone.
Yeah.
So yeah, good animation, what matter. And by the way, we're talking about the character rig here, but it could be the same thing with the line of dialogue that you're going to
Totally.
take. Do you take a line that's been used over and over and over, or is it one
Classic
that
argument.
you recorded yourself? The music that you're going to use, is it the top 40 song of the week, or is it an obscure band that you know for a fact that no one knows? Maybe it's your own band. But I would say for me, what matters most in your choice of other than quality is try not to be offensive with what you show in your show reels. If
idea.
you're using a beloved character, be careful. Don't destroy this character. Don't be violent with this character. Don't do anything in your acting choices that might be offensive for a lot of people. That's the same thing for the choice of line of dialogue. I mean, it might not be the best idea to have a line that is just swearing and super offensive and all that. And that's the same thing with music. I mean, you might, death metal might be the music you listen to when you work. Great. Don't put this in your show reel. A lot of reviewer would just be like, no, they're just going to skip it because you lost them in the first five
100%.
seconds.
100%.
So it doesn't mean that you need to be mainstream, middle of the road, and please everyone. No, just don't go in those extreme that that there's many people.
That's good advice in general. I feel like it's good life advice. You know what I mean? Like anyone finds themselves at a very extreme end of any spectrum. People talk politics like left wing and right wing. If you're extreme left or right, you should probably check yourself really quickly and ask yourself, because extreme anything. I mean, look, I'm not saying don't be who you are and don't pursue your convictions. I'm not saying that. Don't get me wrong here. I'm not saying be vanilla. I'm saying, even though vanilla is my favorite flavor, we'll save that for another chat. But what I'm saying is that, like, you just if you have such radical thoughts. Yes, I know that radical thinkers are who can eventually, if hopefully they're positive ones. I mean, at one point, I'm sure that there was a radical thought that women should be able to vote. It seems crazy to think of that now, but it actually was, you know what I mean, at one point. So I'm not saying that we don't want people that have radical thoughts. Let's just make sure that they're constructive and they're positive as opposed to something that's negative. It's funny because this reminds me, you remember before Agora.Community was launched, I did this crazy, I still have some that I never released. I should go back in there just for fun and release them. But I did this huge, I decided to take all of the entries from an Anim challenge 1 month. And I literally just at this marathon, I recorded myself for about 6 hours going through every single one of them. And then I was just editing them slowly. And it actually ended up becoming the format that we now use for Agora.Community reviews. I saw a couple in there that were using some very difficult lines and to taken out of context. Like, for instance, I think one of them was one of them was from Blazing Saddles, Mel Brooks film. It's just the language. I mean, that movie was dealing with race and it was comedic, but it takes a professional comedian to pull that kind of crap off. And if you pull that out of a movie that people might not have even seen before, because that's an old movie now, and drop it on your reel, you are just asking for the hate. So you better be very, very careful. Don't put yourself in that kind of a position. It's just not worth it. Trust me. So yeah, I remember having to give that feedback, and it was kind of I was dancing on eggshells because I wanted to offend them, because the animation was actually not bad, but I'm just is it hot in here? Or is it just me? This also reminds me of of another anecdote really quickly. So I used to work at Ubisoft, and I used to teach at UB Campus a long time ago while I was there. And UB Campus was just it was a kind of a cooperation with some of the colleges here in Montreal, and they had this campus that was sponsored by, and Ubisoft essentially gave access to some of their professional employees that wanted to work on some teaching. And I remember having to spend a whole afternoon one day deprogramming my entire class because some of the Ubisoft recruiters showed up and was essentially telling them that don't bother putting any kind of sports stuff or anything on there that was like, they started talking about how Ubisoft, they only are interested in like, assassins running around with swords. And I'm just like, okay, this feels really weird because they're recruiters that work for the same company I work for, but like literally ignore them. Because at the end of the day, that is the worst advice I have ever heard, because nobody cares about such specific as from their point of view, people who don't understand animation that are working as recruiters. And this gets into a very interesting topic we should probably save for another day, because David and I have lots of opinions on this, where the awkwardness of having
too many.
There's just so many. It's this idea of there's this barrier of recruiters that are kind of doing a first pass filter on who might end up on, say, David's desk as far as potential candidates. Sometimes that's very broken, and sometimes the wrong people are doing that. I'm going to be completely honest with you, and that's a pretty good example that particular day. So, I think honestly, the one that I responded the best is the first opinion, which was it depends on the studio, and I would add to that the person, because if you could do a little bit of homework on who's going to be looking at this reel, if you want to keep it safe for everybody, try to make it safe for everybody. But if you're going to make a reel that's specifically targeting a studio in question, then you might want to think twice about what goes on there. And maybe, if you can get a sense of the culture, I think you can roll the dice. I think they would probably be flattered most often. And if they're not sophisticated enough to look at it and go, oh, well, why would they do? It's like, they're probably going to look at that and go, yeah, this person totally gets it. Like, you imagine those Ubisoft recruiters I was talking about, that's exactly what they would have wanted. If you were to just take their Assassin's Creed character at the time and make an animation, they'd be like, yeah, these people they're made for this company, and then they're going to get on the right desk. So, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't think you can go wrong either way, to be completely honest with you, because you don't know who's going to be picking that up and taking a look at it.
Yeah.
So follow your heart, my friends, and work with something that gets you excited, because that way you're going to show off your best skills. And like David said, that's all that really matters at the end of the day. Okay. Wow. Good one. That was nice. Now I feel all limber. Do we have any questions in chat?
I think we do. I see
one
or two queue in there.
Okay. Scanning. I'll work from maybe the bottom. Oh, there's one there right at the very bottom. Vicentry. Let's try this one. I think this is the one you wanted me to tackle anyways, Scott. It was from YouTube. Hello, Vicentry. In a similar vein, would it be advised to avoid more popular, commonly available rigs like the Stoff's Link plus Zelda rigs, so you don't give off the vibe of yet another Zelda/Link animation?
Yeah, for me that's the same thing. It doesn't. It's not that it doesn't matter, but it's random. Some people will like it, some people will like it a little bit less, but there's no way to know. So I would say if that's a rig that you're comfortable with, that's going to allow you to go faster, if that's a character that inspires you and you're motivated, just go for it. If you're equally motivated and all of that, and it's really 50-50, and you have a super original rig that no one has seen and a well-known character, and you're unsure, okay, well, go with the rig that no one's seen, because at least in your mind you won't have any doubt that it played into the refusal that you had from that studio. So if anything, that's going to buy you peace of mind. But overall, it's not a major factor.
Yeah, just don't overthink it. I totally agree with everything that David said. I think you just have no control over it. You don't know how that's going to play out. And I think that more often than not, no one's really going to care as long as the animation is good. I think you spend your time making sure that you're doing original ideas with the character. Try to find ways of pushing the envelope with the character. And because there's something, because here's the funny thing, right? The job, by the way, spoiler alert, the job of an animator is someone who can get hired and work for someone who's probably working on an IP, and it means you need to sort of figure out the recipe for that. So in other words, your job is going to be about taking a character like Spider-Man, for instance, and then animating in a way that it looks like Spider-Man and feels like Spider-Man. So if in a way you're kind of showing off one of the core skills that an animator needs, to be like a chameleon, to be able to pick up on and convince with some sort of authority on that the character is legit and canon. So you know what I mean? Like that's another argument for the positive on this, is that you can, but you got to do it well. You want to execute. You certainly don't want to do a crap job on it, because then you're going to be compared. It's so easy to compare, all this great work and then yours. But I mean, I just don't think I don't think it should be part of the issue. You got other bigger things to worry about, I think, than this. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think there was another question just
another
beside
one?
this one, just before or after.
Right before. Oh yeah, right above both. Hey, Yumi.
Hey, Yumi.
I've seen you hanging around here. Question: I've heard many stories in my studio where animators worked so hard and for so long on a shot just for the VFX block, for the character out. Just for the VFX to block the character out. All the work is just wasted. Is this common? Do you guys have any stories yourself? Oh my God, countless.
My God, yes, countless stories. I'm just trying to. There's too many. I'm just trying to remember which one would be. The first production I worked on at DreamWorks was Shrek 4, and there was a pretty cool sequence that was fully animated, fully rendered, fully everything. Like the sequence is done. This 6 minutes of the movie is done.
Oh boy.
And eventually story changed a little bit, and this sequence makes less and less sense, and eventually, all right, bye, we're removing this sequence. It's not in any making of, it's not anywhere, so it's
never
not
happened.
Just one animator that lost one character of one shot. That it's literally hundreds of people, weeks of work. That was man. That happens. It's called being a professional artist. That's
right.
You're. That's why we often say, don't attach yourself too much to the end product. Enjoy the process. Hard to do,
but you got to find a way of doing it.
If you want to, take a walk, meditate, just go in your safe place.
Totally.
There's an art form that always fascinated me from the Buddhist monk. I don't remember the name, but it's basically they're spending days, if not weeks, to craft those amazing painting, but with a little colored dust, and it's super precise. And there's the level of details is insane, and it's super long. And when it's completed, it's just beautiful. And then when it's completed, they take it. They go to the nearest river, the nearest stream, and they fill everything in the stream. And then they start over. And this is a process just to detach yourself from the end product, enjoy the journey, because it doesn't mean that you cannot be proud of the end result and be happy about it. But if your own satisfaction and happiness is dependent on the end result, and this end result is owned by someone else or another corporation that you don't have control to, it's just, pain is going to ensue at some point, because this sad production story happens, very, very often.
So, I mean, I agree. And I think, like I was sort of saying, how it's easier said than done. So for those who do struggle with this, which is, by the way, everybody, what David's saying is a very good way to sort of spiritually, a nice spiritual barometer to this kind of or a good way to kind of have a good attitude or philosophy on this. I have to say though that it stings a little deeper, especially if, for instance, like those monks that do this, they don't rely on the next paycheck to be able to show this. So for them, it truly is just the journey. But it doesn't detract from the truth that is in what you're saying, because it is absolutely true. Because like you said, like, yes, that's a good point. It sucks because you can't now show that maybe on a demo reel, because maybe it just gets buried because you don't always get access, especially to shots like this. And so it can sting a little bit because there was a lot of work that you cannot now use to get that next job. But at the same time, like David said, you have no control over this. So you could be sad and frustrated about something you don't have control over, or find a way of sort of shifting your attitude and just accept it as part of the reality, as hard as it might be.
The glass is always half empty, half full. I mean, in this case, I mean, be like laugh about it, and that's just going to make a good story that you can tell for the rest of your. How many of your shots have a good story that you can tell for many times and make your friends and peers laugh about it? So that good for you. Now you have this story. You can move on with your career.
It's true, because they do have good story. They do turn into good stories, because the one I always think about when someone brings this up is someone you and I both know. Their initials is FC, and they worked on a certain production that was known for this because there was a lot of crunch at the end, and they were just killing themselves on last minute revisions and all these sequences. And they were really, really good. These sequences and entire sequences. And we're talking about, like, this was a VFX pipeline. So there was like many departments involved, and it was just like they were making changes to the edit at the very last minute, and it just didn't make it. They cut these entire VFX heavy sequences right from the film. And it was just like, people were just like, it's like they just took it's like people gave birth to this baby, and it was like someone was like, thank you, and then just threw it in the trash. It was like, what are you doing? And
I think
it's not easy.
From all the different expertise or industry that we're into, VFX is probably the one that you need to have the thickest skin as an animator, and probably
VFX?
as an artist in general. VFX, yes.
Oh yeah, I totally
because
agree.
the number of version that you're going to do.
Yep.
There's many VFX studio that are, okay, well, we need to take your blocking. Someone else is going to finish it. The number of shots that are just, removed from the edit, the number of animation, that there are so many reasons. I think the ratio in between hard work and what you see in the screen in VFX might be among the lowest in our industry compared to what is actually experienced, either played or viewed. So, but there's plenty of other reason why it could be an amazing career. But a thick skin in VFX is pretty much
imperative. Yeah. And I would say a close second would be gameplay animators. But the reason why I agree that that's number one is because gameplay animators, it's hard to argue that you put the same level of polish and care into a gameplay animation than you do a VFX shot. VFX shot are notorious for just like, there's so much like micromanaging on the pixels on these shots, where directors they have so much to say, and you just working on this, and you're super proud because you become emotionally attached because it's with you for a lot longer than you ever will be with a gameplay animation, I think. And so I think it's for that reason that there's that really big lopsidedness to this particular scenario. That's a good juicy one. I like it.
More questions.
Yes, look at that. So let's see here. I'm going to do this one for Scott because this is a good one. I don't think have we not talked about this yet? Okay, so can you sneak a shot that's been cut onto your reel, but just make sure it's only goes to the recruiters?
Sneak a shot that's been
meaning
okay, so something
a shot you weren't supposed to have.
Of course you can. I mean,
just don't tell anybody we said nothing.
So. What is interesting that question is it might bring a concept that could be new to some of the audience. Many people have their public showreel and private showreel.
Absolutely.
It's used, and I've even seen people in the interview that will bring their iPad to show because they don't even want to put it on Vimeo with password protected.
No. Yeah.
But and that's often the reason why some showreel or public with no password and other needs a password. This is where usually you kind of show the stuff that the production is already released. There's no big arm, but you don't 100% have the approval to show it either. So it's going to be there. So yes, you can do it. Those that are doing it are usually making sure that it's password protected, and they're going to share it very specific people, and probably with a disclaimer of, by the way, the production is released, but there's shots in there that's done, so please keep this showreel for yourself.
Yeah, there's a delicate balance here that, and I think that sort of there is a bit of a what is it? what the hell? I've lost the expression. Don't tell.
Don't ask, don't tell.
Don't ask, don't tell. Exactly. There's a bit of that kind of thing going on, but you got to use your best judgment here. Because here's one of the things you got to think about, and it's a perspective that I think really helps. Consider this. You're interviewing at another place, another studio, and you're showing your former studio's non-public stuff, possibly, right? And so what impression do you want to leave on this new employer who now might see you as a bit of a liability? Because I'm telling you, that's not the message you want to send. So you need to be very professional, and you need to have that conversation. I'm not saying that they're trying to bait you and ask you if they can see some of your stuff just to see if you're going to show them. I don't think anyone's that malicious. But I mean, this whole thing operates on a level of trust, and you need to just be respectful and use your best judgment on this. And the reason why this whole it's ticky is because, some people go by the policy of it's better to do and ask for forgiveness later, because some of these companies you work for are going to be draconian with some of their legal procedures and some of their paranoia. And if you ask, you're definitely not going to get the yes. And now you've just screwed yourself, because now if you were then to go and defy that and then go do it, now you're just asking for a heap of trouble. So this is very difficult, and there is no right or wrong answer on this. And I certainly wouldn't want to give anybody any kind of straight advice. It's going to come down to your own comfort level and who you're meeting with, and being very transparent and respectful to all of these things. So good luck out there.
And think about it. Is it really worth it? Even if you consider that, okay, absolutely. Well, I kind of think that, okay, well, does it mean that your showreel without this shot is going to make a difference? Because if it's just one other cool on top of your other 20 cool shots,
is it worth the risk?
Yeah,
exactly.
Just don't.
Totally agree. I totally agree. If you've been stuck on a project for 4 years, and some of my, a lot of colleagues that you and I work with on a regular basis, especially ones that work in games, there's a tendency to, when they work at big companies, they could work on a game for many years and it just gets canceled. And then now what? 4 to 5 years? And it's like they got nothing. So now you're going to show a bunch of stuff that's like a 5-year-old demo reel. Can you imagine? That's awkward. And so these are special circumstances that I think kind of require some special sort of allowances. But again, tread lightly and just, make sure that you are, doing it on the up and up. And like you said, like David said, I think a really great way is like bring it on an iPad. That way it's never been on the internet. Who's to say, it's like you leave with that only copy and no one can actually leak it or anything like that, which is usually the biggest concern that a company has, is that you're not able to protect their property.
Yeah,
right.
The 2022 version of that would be the iPad right on the webcam, right?
That's right.
As long as they're not recording the meeting. But I really like what you mentioned, Brent, about if you show something as super confidential, you are also messaging that you will probably do the same to the others afterwards. And I would say that this applies to just don't say anything bad about your previous employer. I mean, you can mention that there was a lot of overtime expected, and it was not fitting with my current family situation with the young kids and all that. You can keep it more like, my situation didn't fit into this kind of context, and ideally you're not applying in a place that they're going to, just in terms of culture, demand overtime to everyone. But whatever you're going to say about your previous employer, they're taking for granted that this is what you're going to say about them in their next one. So just
100%.
Again, it's your call. You say whatever you want to say. Just keep this in mind. Whatever you say, this is what they know that you will say about them.
And is it worth it? Always ask that question on all these kinds of things, because you got to weigh the pluses with the minuses. You don't know. How do you know that here's the thing. There's a couple scenarios. Yeah, maybe you were working in dumpster fire. Maybe it was completely unfair and the whole place was on fire and no one blames you for leaving. And it's probably one of the reasons why they contact you in the first place as new employer, because they're like, okay, we heard, we get news flashes all the time. It happens all the time. And it travels in director circles, producer circles. People in leadership at studios will often be like, oh, did you hear about this studio? studio. It's on fire right now, and people are looking to jump. And so this is important because it allows these other companies that it's great because they could become life raft for people that need a new job. But also, it's like we're looking for good people all the time, every studio, especially now. And so we want to be able to grab some of these people to help them out and to help ourselves out. So basically, even though that might be true and all these things are true, you don't know the people you're interviewing. How do you not know that those people are friends with some of the producers and some of the other people that are in? And so you have to be careful that, just be careful, because everyone knows everybody, and you don't want to say the wrong thing and it could be taken out of context. And here's the other thing. The other thought I would leave you with is, consider this. If everyone knows that it's such a train wreck that where you're coming from, but yet you still remain cool and calm and professional in the interview and don't say anything bad about them, they're going to think you're a freaking superhero because they know where you're coming from and they know you have every right to bitch and complain, but you don't, because you show restraint. And restraint is a very, 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 very important tool to have in productions, and I think in general, right? Like, because otherwise you might just be a wrecking ball and it's going to be bad chemistry and you're just going to be a complainer, and then it's like, you know what, you're already being flagged as a risk, and so you might not get the job just because of something small, just like you let some little comment slip and then it's over. So it's good stuff. Just juicy stuff tonight. I like it.
All right. Another one from Veronica right after.
Actually, there's another one from Vicentry. Wow. Yeah, let's
I'm losing track.
It's okay. I got it. I'm on it. Okay, Vicentry with another one. I don't think I've seen you before. So hi, if you're new to the stream, welcome to the community, first of all. And I'd like to pick people's brain at some point, is because we've been seeing more people on YouTube. We're not too sure exactly why that's happening. We simultaneously broadcast to Twitch and Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube, but usually it's primarily Twitch, but we've seen an uptick in YouTube. So if you have any perspective I'd love to know how you discovered us, Vicentry, and why you're watching from YouTube. If you could post that in chat, that would be amazing. While each reel is different and tailored to each studio for those just starting out, is there a sort of recommended inclusion list to always have, i.e. like walk, talk, heavy lift, etc.?
Not really. I mean, my first idea there is, obviously it's going to depend on where your own level of animation, right? We could say, it doesn't matter if you just have a great physical performance with the face and the body and all that, but maybe you're not, really good at facial animation yet, and it's not something that you can fully apply. So I think that the number one rule remains: you need to have good quality stuff in your showreel, and if at the level that you're at, it means like a good walk, a good physical thing, but you're not ready to put your facial and performance stuff out there, just go with that, and it's fine.
Totally.
For the walk, in general, if you're going for a showreel that's going to be very broad and you're going to send it to VFX and game studio and animator, basically to every studio around, there's a couple of things that you want to make sure that you have. So good physicality. It could be through a performance, or it can be parkour, or it can be anything else, but something that showcase that you understand, you understand gravity, you understand anatomy, you understand body mechanic, physics in general, and you will want probably a good performance that's going to showcase good facial animation as well. So those could be all within one performance or two different things. Definitely, if you were going for VFX, having other thing than just biped human, whether it's a quadruped character or it's a flying dragon or what, and anything other than a biped is going to help for sure. And then I would say, in terms of style, usually it's more based on experience and taste. Do you want to Are you going more for VFX and game cinematics, which usually goes more towards realism, or more with short film and animated feature that is more keyframe animation, very snappy? So the style that you're going to take is usually going to be implied by what you did in the past or where you want to go. So you don't need to have something super realistic and something super cartoony just to make sure that you. But yeah, physicality, performance, and different anatomy, not just biped, could be quadruped and flying and all that, to show that you you're able to really understand anatomy, but on different kind of characters and creature.
Got nothing to add. Only thing I would say is if you are in fact new here, again, welcome. And anybody else who's in the chat that might not be piping up, that might be new here. A quick note that we've been doing this for a while, so we get a lot of common questions. Like this one is a very a popular one. Like, what do I put on the reel? Just FYI, there's a treasure trove of information. Especially, I would point you towards our new podcast where Scott has been editing down. He calls it Bites. I think they're called Agora Bites. Basically, he goes and he kind of cherry picks cool little bits and little piece of advice here and there that'll come up during streams like this, and even streams like our conversation with. So if you are looking for a lot of really just good high level advice that's very commonly asked by communities like this, that I would highly recommend you go give that a listen. And by all means, keep coming back here and keep asking your questions. I just want to let you know that you might be pleasantly surprised with a lot of really great wisdom that's already just available for you to binge on whenever you feel the time or the need. So let's see. We got from Veronica. Let's do it. Our very own. How do you get better at accepting compliments about your work? Why do you think artists tend to be so bad at accepting compliments about their work?
Oh, that's no, it's not an easy one, but for me, it's very clear why is that most artists associate themselves with their work. So basically, if we're praising their work, it's as if we're praising them. And some people are less comfortable to be put under the spotlight.
Just in general,
not just artists in general. And by the way, it's a good rule for the opposite. If your work is being destroyed, if you're someone that has a hard time to take a compliment about your work because you make it about yourself, you're going to feel emotionally destroyed yourself when your last animation is being destroyed in review. So I don't think, maybe for one side of the equation, being able to accept, compliment, that might be years of therapy. So let's not go there yet. But just detaching yourself from your work. I'm me, the artist, and this is the latest piece of work that I've done. Sometimes my work is great. Sometimes it's garbage. It depends on the level of inspiration and motivation that I have. So this way, at least you're not going to take it too personal, whether it's on the compliment side or on the destruction side of things.
Yeah. I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier. It's like, you have to find a way of keeping an arm's length as best as you can, not taking it personally. Yes, your artwork does not define you. It does not. Yeah. So it is not a personal attack on you. It's going to feel like that because as artists, we put a lot of ourselves into our work. So that's why it's difficult. It's not easy. Yeah. I'd also say on this particular topic, I think that you would probably find if we did spend enough time thinking about this, I think we'd find a lot of interesting, complex intertwinings with another popular topic that comes up a lot on our streams, which is the imposter syndrome. If you are thinking that you're truly an imposter and someone shines a bright light on you, saying that, look how great you are, it forces you to your reflex is like, oh my God, the spotlight's on me. They're going to discover that I'm just a fraud. It's like, it makes people want to scurry back into their little hole. And I mean, there's a little bit of going on. There's some of the psychology there is overlapping here. So it's complicated. But I think the best advice is what David already said, which is like, find a way to try to keep at least a professional arm's length from your work. So, yes, take the compliments when you can. Don't let it go to your head, but also don't cry like a big baby and sulk in the corner if you get some criticism about your work, because trust me, it's going to happen. So you just have to prepare yourself.
Yeah, and try to accept the compliment. There's many, often the reaction is that, oh no, you're kind of going to undermine yourself
Mm,
because you're uncomfortable. No, just
yeah,
take it,
just
understand that
take it.
it's about this, and it's not
Totally.
about how good you are. You can make
Yeah,
it just as, oh yeah, I'm also really happy with the work. I work really hard at it. So it's about the amount of work that you've done
yeah,
to do
totally.
this. It's not
Effort.
you and how good you are. No, it's
Yeah,
the effort that you've put
exactly.
in there. And then
Yeah.
obviously, ideally, maybe your peers and the team had something to do. So you
Yep.
take the praise, you accept the praise, and then you share the praise with the other people around
Yep.
you. And
Yep.
that's usually how you deflect it back to the
Yep.
universe, and then you can just move on.
It's all about that universe, man. Put it back out there. The good vibes. I would say also an interesting thing, just a side note, and it's going to break a lot of people's brains when I say this because you're going to be like, "Oh my god, he's totally right." We all know people that are very negative. We've all worked with very negative, miserable, jaded people. Fun fact: most of the people that I know like this are usually the ones that are bitching, and complaining about how they're never recognized, and then they're also the ones that are often very awkward when someone gives them the compliment. It's like they're just hell bent on being miserable. They just and don't let yourself be one of those people. Like allow yourself, like David said, take a win, enjoy it, bask in that recognition, and because it's not always going to happen. You're going to maybe need to remind yourself mentally of that moment the next time you're taking a licking, because you win some and you lose some, and that's just the way the cookie crumbles, my friends.
Yep.
Is there an expression in French like this? This is the way the cookie crumbles. Do you have an
I have
equivalent?
no idea what it means.
Oh,
So
okay.
I
I
can have
said
no
something.
idea.
I said it to Christine the other day, and she's like, "Cookie crumbling? What the?" And I'm
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I guess that one doesn't compare. It
I
doesn't
didn't
doesn't
want to
fit."
break the flow, so I was like,
Yeah,
okay, I have no idea what that means, but
it's a
what does it
popular
mean,
English.
Brent?
Yeah, well, I'm old, so maybe people don't say it anymore. But the way the cookie crumbles essentially is like, deal with it. Cookies
Okay.
crumble. Enjoy the cookie, regardless of the crumbling. Stop complaining about the fact it's crumbling and just eat it. Damn it, big baby. Okay, so I got one last question for us. We got 2 minutes left. Can you think we can do it? I think we can do it.
Let's do it.
Actually,
We have to.
technically,
I think
we
we
have
have
2 last
three.
questions.
One, I see
Well,
three in there. We can
really?
spend 1 minute
Dear God.
per
Well,
question. I know.
I wanted to make sure we got one more done from the backlog as well, because I like to try to at least get the ones that Scott highlights. Otherwise, he beats me up after class. So
All right, so let's do this one in a super
okay.
speed run for the others.
Okay. So the one from backlog, and then we'll do a speed run for the others. Got it. Roger. Okay, here it comes. This is from Enem Rogue. Yes. When working on a team where English isn't the first language, how do you make yourself understood? At times, I have to repeat myself, and I'm wondering if I'm an inefficient communicator, especially when it comes to written communication. Wow, what a good question. Especially poignant, considering I work surrounded by francophones and I suck at French.
I
feel your
mean,
pain.
myself, I'm a French Canadian that I worked in Australia, London, and California. And the first time I moved abroad, it was in Australia, and my English wasn't good at all. So I can relate to this feeling of this language
totally
barrier. And in Montreal, I've also run meeting in English, even if there was literally 1 or 2 people in the room that didn't speak French. You literally had 10 people that were speaking French that were all speaking in English to various degree of success for the minority that was there. But that's something that is frequent in Montreal. So how do you make yourself understood? I would say if we're from the speaking part, I would say speak maybe slower, not to the point that it's annoying and they think that you're condescending to them, but sometimes just slowing down a little bit. Your choice of words, there's a I don't know how many word someone that speak English, like let's say 20,000, and someone like me actually use maybe 4,000, something like that. But there's something in the words that you're using, especially if you're speaking with people that don't understand English properly. Lower your vocabulary level to, let's say, high school, or to a level that there's no words in there that they will be like, what does it mean? No, just keep them simple. And I would say probably body language and expression is, I mean, 80% of the communication that we're doing is with the tone that we have, the facial expression, what we do with our body, how we gesture. There's a lot that is communicated there. So, maybe overplay a little bit the body language, the expressivity, adjust your vocabulary level and just reduce a little bit the speed of your speech. And that's going to help people that are not very good in English in this situation to better understand you.
Yeah, I think that I think it's put yourself out there. Don't be shy to remind people and to just say something. Like I do that if I'm speaking to a room full of people that don't because as you probably all know, I tend to speak very quickly, and so I have a tendency to just go off like a rocket. And so I'm going to usually, when I'm in a room full of people that I know may not be able to follow, I will just say right off the bat, I have a motor mouth. I go very fast and I get excited. So don't be shy to just let me know. Just tell me to slow down and just remind me I'm not going to be offended. I would rather it because in an industry like this, comprehension is very important, right? I think it's important regardless, but when the devil's in the details, I think it's extremely important, especially if you're in a leadership role. You want people to understand, and maybe there's other ways. Like for instance, something I've learned living here among all of these francophones is that they have to deal with this very difficult scenario of you could have a bunch of directors that are from all over the world who probably speak more often than not, the common language is going to be English, and you will be in a room. Like I've been a director in a room full of like 25 francophones, and it feels very wrong and weird for me to be then presenting to them in a language that some of them are not very good at. And it's all also the other way around. Like they are like, okay, I'm going to talk to a bunch of Anglophones, and I'm going to speak only in French. Like so what they decided to do, which I always thought was kind of interesting. I have my opinions on how to make it even better, but their policy when I was there, I don't know if it's still the same, is they would present in in French because the majority of people working at that company here in Montreal were French for sure, but their slides were in English. They needed to have slides in English. My problem with that, it's not bad, but the problem is that the debates and the question and the sort of the spitfire, the things that would happen that were provoked on a topic, they would then essentially deteriorate usually into French, and now the Anglophones are not able to follow, and then now their voices are not being heard, or they don't really understand what's even being talked about. So I think that it's a good idea to try to think in multiple media dimensions because it can help, but then just know that if it does spiral into a conversation, you'll still need to find a way of maybe even have someone who's willing to translate after the question. Take the time. If you want to make sure people can understand, you want to make sure that people understand. It's plain and simple. So just think of some tools that you can bring to the table and maybe think outside the box even and come up with some solutions.
Yep.
Okay, so that's it from the backlog. We have more, but I mean, we're not going to have time to get to them tonight. So let's try to tear through what's left on chat. And by the way, thanks for all the great questions, both on social and tonight. You've all been amazing, throwing us some sweet heat. Where are these other? Oh, there's one. Okay, I see. Okay, I got it. One of these ones I'm going to have to read first. Okay, so applying to a company this is from Corey D. Animates. Applying to a company can an applying artist ask for a test, knowing their skills are not hireable, interview ready yet, and how to get word in for that intention. The goal would be to start building up speed and understanding what holes they may have that a test would expose. Note, it would not be used in a demo reel after trying the test. Thank you. That's a great idea, actually.
That's something I don't think I've ever seen or heard, and it's not going to. I think it's not. It's just not going to happen, because the reason. So is it during the application or it's during the?
Sounds
interview?
like
it's during the application.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like the person's going in thinking they're not going to do well in the test, but they want to try anyways, just because they want to sort of practice and like build their skills up.
Can an applying ask for a test? Okay, so it's them. So it's instead of the studio asking for a
Yes,
test, it's the
yes,
applying
exactly.
that say, I know my reel, maybe not, but give me a
Yes.
test and I want to prove myself.
Yeah, I think the point here is you're worried that if it's going to look poorly on you if you do the test and it's a disaster because you know you're not there at the skill level yet. So you're just trying to be open right away saying, hey, I don't plan on passing this test, but I'd like to try anyways. And also B, can I put that on my reel afterwards? I think is the, in a nutshell.
Okay.
There's
Brent,
two
let
questions.
me reread because what you describe is not at all what I'm understanding from this question.
Reread it.
What I'm understanding is that someone that applied that would purposely ask for a test to show their own skills.
Well, okay, so hold on a second. I can't read it. Go ahead. You won't be able to read all of it though.
All right. Can an applying artist ask for a test, knowing their skill is not hireable, interview ready yet, and how to get the word? Okay, so it's basically my show reel is not good enough. I don't have the experience. I'm not hireable, but I know that I'm good. So please give me a test so I can prove myself.
Oh, that's not how I see it. I think they feel like they're not, knowing that their skill is not hireable yet and not, so they don't think they're good. They know that they're a student and they're learning.
So Brent, this is perfect. We're going to provide two answers.
I love it.
We're each going to provide what we understand.
So much for rapid fire.
If you're asking the studio to provide you a test, the studio are probably going to tell themselves, so if you ask her for a test, why didn't you take the time at home? Because probably the studio is not going to pay for the test anyway. So why don't you take this time at home to create better animation to showcase what you can do and put those animation in your show reel to not have to ask the studio that please give me a test because I know that my show reel is not on par with what you're looking for. So if I properly understood the question, I think it might be not necessarily awkward, but I think that they're going to wonder why you're asking them a specific test instead of just doing better animation on your own that you can put on your show reel and then you send it in your application.
Okay, so my version of this, he's still here, I think, so it'd be great to hear who interpreted it the right way. But the way I see this is it's you're probably pretty new at this. You're trying to learn. You figure one of the best way of learning is to challenge yourself with the same kind of test that people that are applying for the job and getting the job are doing. That way, in your mind, you're sort of like, what's the point of training? Like, I'm trying to think of an analogy, but like you're training for baseball, sort of try to hit baseballs out of the park when really the sport you want to be playing is soccer. So you want to go specifically after that skill, and you think the best way of doing that is to like run the same gauntlet that these other sort of like challengers have run before you. I get it, and if that's the case, I don't see there being a problem with it at all. Just be upfront, and it all comes down to building a brand, like Manny would have said a long time ago. There's no reason why you can't start a relationship with these recruiters and be honest, be like, look, I know I'm not going to get this job, but I dream of getting this job one day. So if you could give me a test and I'm going to do it and I'm going to work on it, because maybe the best case scenario, maybe if you come at it that angle, maybe and I'm certainly not making any promise for anybody, but maybe one of the supervisors is going to be inspired by that and they're going to even give you feedback on that reel. It could happen. It's not, I would do it. If I heard that story, I would be moved by it and I would want to kind of give you feedback so I could help you know maybe where you need to learn some of the skill, where you might be lacking in some of the skills. Worst case scenario, yeah, you have some work that you can put on your. I don't think anyone is ever going to be like, the only question is whether you're using one of their proprietary rigs and you sign some sort of waiver saying you're not allowed to use it somewhere. But if not, I mean, you did it for free anyways, so I don't see why you wouldn't be able to put it on your demo reel. And you could just ask them, like, just be completely transparent, because I think that is a very noble thing to do, because everyone starts somewhere. Every animator that's making amazing things right now, there was a day where they were starting their first day and they didn't know anything. And so people are going to, like, just, you know that. And maybe you'll get somebody who's going to take a liking to you just because you're being so earnest and upfront about it. Who knows? You never know. So who is right? Who interpreted it the right way?
I don't know. I'm just reading in the chat that Curry has 10 years of experience. But that's something that he was mushing about.
Okay. He doesn't want to pick
But
favorites.
no,
Well played.
we won't know who had the better interpretation of this question.
But I think it's great because it does work both ways. I think it could because both those scenarios could be realistic theoretically in my mind. Okay, let's move up. I think we had. How do you accept? No, I think we have one more. I see only one more unless I'm missing one.
All right, last one.
Okay, here we go. Okay. Is it better? This is from YT Displant. Why is it better to learn and have rigging under your belt as an animator and others? So I guess basically why make yourself well-rounded, I think is the question.
Yes. I mean, you want to be the best that you can be at your expertise, and you want to have a decent amount of experience and knowledge to those things in periphery to what you're doing. So for animators, it could be, drawing, for instance. It could be rigging, because definitely this is first of all, you can create your own rig. You can speak with the rigger you understand his reality. You can speak the same language, because when he tells you, but I have this problem, you can come up with good solution that would make sense in the context of production. It can be technical animation, how to put your animation into a game engine. Whatever department is close to yours, usually it's good to develop some of those skills. Can be scripting as well, so it can be both artistic or technical. So be the best animator that you can have, but some of those skills, a bit of rigging, a bit of scripting, maybe a little bit of drawing, they're definitely going to build the foundation and are going to allow you to progress, because it's a big team effort. The better you're able to work with the other teams, and usually understanding their reality by having tried it yourself is a good idea, the better you're going to progress in your career in general.
I'm going to boil this down to two main topics in my mind, and one of them is efficiency with communication. And the other one is going to be empathy. So basically, the analogy I would use is if you're a F1 car pilot and you literally try to talk to the engineers that are the ones constructing this friggin' like terrestrial rocket ship that you're going to be riding and competing with, does it make sense that you go to them with a, hey, so the thingamabog in the back left is making a wee 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 noise. Can you fix that? That'd be really great. As opposed to like, there's definitely something going on with the rear axle. I can hear it rattling. You don't need to be a pro to have that conversation, but you need to have at least a basic understanding of basic like automobile mechanics for you to be able to interface with these people that specialize. And if you think about it, you're depending on these people. And then the empathy, so that's the communication part. The empathy is we depend on these people every day. And I think it makes sense to always be able to see it from their perspective, because sometimes you get frustrated with people in other departments, and like if you can spend enough time to understand the crap that they go through all the time. And what about the department that you send your stuff to? This is a great idea, because then you kind of have perspective on, maybe some of the things that you're doing is making their lives miserable, and you can anticipate some of those things, because you're like, oh yeah, I would hate it if somebody sent me like that. That sent me a file that was like that, so I'm not going to do that to them. So it's going to just make you better liked. You're going to make better allegiances and make better relationships on the production floor, and you're going to be able to communicate better and get what you need more faster, more efficiently. That's it. My final answer.
So the answer is yes.
The answer is
yes, YT.
25. Okay, so we're way out of time. We're a quarter after. So David, it's way past your bedtime. Thank you for being here tonight. Go into your crypto sort of cryogenic freezing that you do when you sleep your 5 hours a night, and we'll see you on the next one.
All right.
Thanks, David.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Okay, well, that was fun. An energetic set of questions always produces a very interesting stream. Just a reminder, we're not going to be around next week. Don't worry, we haven't disappeared. We are just out for the week. And we will be back full force. We're preparing some fun, fresh stuff for you in February. So yeah, I guess that's about it. We do have some we just don't have a QA next week, but we do have actually a stream next week on the Monday. I think I said this yesterday. But yeah, you guys know where to look. If you're curious, you're new here, just go to Agora.Community/live. It has our schedule right there. You can also subscribe to our Google Calendar, and that's going to give you all the goods as well. That's it for tonight. I'll talk to you soon. Have a really good one. Stay safe out there. Stay animated. You know the drill. See you on the next stream.